welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, Gungans, Judds, kitty mitty looking cone heads, to today's video where, last I checked, it's July. So why don't we do a little bit of Christmas in July analogy here? We got this present. It's in the wrapping. It's a nice big box. You think you're getting something good. And then finally the day comes, after days of speculating what's beyond the Christmas tree, and you open it up, and it's a big stinker. It's just filled with coal. And that's what it feels like right now in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. We have the Naboo raid kind of settling in its first weekend. Kind of like I was speculating going into this, I had some concerns, and well, my concerns were pretty solidified after this. The Battle for Naboo raid, I wanted to give you guys an update on this now that it's been, kind of the first cycle has gone through. And if you kind of saw my progression kind of following this raid, when we first got the news of the individual requirements for this raid, my initial impressions were, oh, this kind of looks, a little too constricted. But let's wait and see, could be fine. And here's the thing, the overall sentiment I'm getting is that the Naboo raid's cool. It's cooler than the past two raids that we've gotten. And the cutscenes are cool, the graphics are cool. Overall, it's pretty intuitive, no stupid crazy remods you gotta do. But the biggest thing that we were worried about were the rewards. And we're gonna show my free-to-play account, the greatest free-to-play account of all time, obviously, as well as the sentiment of some other people. I threw a little poll out there for you guys to chit-chat about. But here we go, the moment of truth. I wanted to show you guys the impact that I was worried was going to happen. Let's get a drum roll, please. Battle for Naboo, free-to-play account, greatest of all time. What do we get? We got a whopping third crate. Yay! Well, let's get some context to this. Oh man, so let's go back the past two raids, right? And then we're gonna answer the question, should you be staying in the Naboo raid if you're kind of in a similar spot where, spoiler alert, my count, my guild, we are seeing a massive reduction. Basically, our rewards are cut in half, but let's wait and talk about the implications of all that. So going to the previous speeder bike raid, you can see that because of the various, requirements, it was very friendly in general, a lot of Empire, a lot of Ewok, Rebel stuff. It was a much wider pool to pull with. There's also a secondary problem, I think, with this Naboo raid. But as you can see, we did way better, getting 104 million crate, basically that third, whatever this is, the blue box here. And let's just show the difference in rewards. How drastic of a change is this? So obviously it's a big decrease, but how big of a decrease is it? Well, basically the rewards are cut in half when it comes to the Mark III currency, which is important to kind of funnel in some Relic 8, some Relic 9 materials into your roster. If we go to that second crate right here, which is 90 million when you scale to this raid, 3,000 Mark III currency. And that was nice, man. I one thing with the Ender raid, again, I didn't like it from a gameplay perspective, but the rewards aspect and the ease of just hitting auto and pretty much getting what you need was kind of nice. And 3,000 currency really made me feel like I was getting a nice chunk of Relic 8s, and also the Mark II was helpful for the Gear 12 stuff. Well, when you go from 3,000 9,700 to all of a sudden down here, where basically the Mark III got cut in half. Pretty much the Mark II stayed the same. What was the Mark I stuff? Yeah, pretty much the Mark I stayed the same. The Mark II stayed the same, which is good. But the Relic 8 pool that I was getting from, that got cut in half. So basically the guild that I'm in, we more or less have to double our effort to kind of maximize where we were before. And basically what I'm saying is we got to work twice as hard to do what we did with one raid in the past, which was kind of crappy. I guess since we're here, we might as well do a comparison to the crate raid. How was our guild in the crate raid? And the crate raid, there was older public stuff and people had that for the most part. But here you go. As you can see, more or less, we're kind of going back to the crate dragon hunt reward box. And again, as I've said in the past, if you're at least hitting the bronze crates, you're doing right. The Mark III's pulled up, so obviously you're not going to see it here. But if you're hitting this, all right, you're at least getting a decent stream of the Mark III currency. But nonetheless, when you're going from 3,000 to 1,500, where you were double timing your rewards before, and now you're getting cut in half, essentially, it's not a good feeling. It just is not. And obviously, one of the biggest problems with this raid was simply the requirements for this raid. We said this many times. There are only 5 go-to teams in this raid, not really much deviation that we're seeing right now. Again, it was good that it's mostly intuitive. And again, if you need some help, there's a card in the top right-hand corner. I laid out all the teams, give you some general tips and tricks for everything. I got max runs of pretty much 4 out of the 5 teams. Not too shabby, but that's on the main account. The problem is when you look at all the different requirements, they're going to be baked into this thing. You're looking at things like Gungans, Queen Amidala, and then of course the Lightspeed Bundle Jedi. And then you're also seeing like Leftover Jedi and then Separatists. And for the most part, people can maybe put one lineup together, the Separatists of B2 lead, and we don't even know if they're going to pull that away from us. So that's still kind of up in the air. And there's one more other thing that I want to pull up from other people kind of wording it as well. I think it's kind of weird. I feel like the first tier is maybe a little too difficult. I felt like I was getting a better score on Endor, even on the lowest tier, whereas here it was really difficult where for the most part, let me just show you. Let's see if I can show you my score. Wasn't really all that special. You can see the score for my guild right here. I don't even know where I landed. It wasn't that great. I literally, all I could have done, Gary, no, it's okay. Don't play this song. Just, it's all right. See, it's funny. Anytime I open up this raid, I want to talk about it. They're like, no, we got to restart. Don't look at where you were. Nonetheless, basically the only two teams I was really able to do was like Darth Maul and Sidious. And then kind of doing like a Yoda and R2-D2 is basically the furthest I can go for it. Oh, here we go. Let's get our daily login awards while we're here. Why not? But that's number one problem. But the other problem is it feels like tier 1 is maybe a little too difficult. Again, it doesn't really help as well when you don't have the fully fleshed out teams. They kind of really even do too well here. So let's go ahead and show you, not just my opinion. Who cares about little old Donald here? Let's talk about you guys, the grand majority of you folks. How are you experiencing this raid? So I opened up a poll earlier on this weekend to kind of get a feel for where you guys are with this raid. And we have 9.4 trillion votes submitted, where I asked the question, how's your guild doing with the new Battle for Naboo raid? Your guild getting better, worse, or about the same with your reward crate? And it's pretty, again, 9.4 trillion votes. You know, it's maybe not a perfect sample, of course. You know, maybe there are just super krakens that aren't submitting their vote, but I want to believe that this is the experience of grand majority of players that represents most of the player base, where only 1% of the 9.4 trillion say they are doing better than before. And then we have 5% that are saying they're getting about the same as before. And then 53% are doing worse than before. So probably something similar that my free-to-play account is experiencing. And this is also maybe even more shocking. And we got to talk about this. 40% haven't even played it yet, or they're playing the older raids. Yeah, that is also a big chunk going on there. So there might be a variety of reasons. Maybe one, people are just kind of holding off. They don't want to, do the Naboo raid. Maybe they got one more quick Endor raid in before the Naboo raid rewards started kicking in and moving everything out. They kind of snapshot if you're an Endor before the update hit. So I'm curious to see if we're going to get more people to move up, but they might end up doing worse than before. But the problem is, you might need to move on from Endor because they pulled those Mark III currencies out. And again, the sentiment seems to be shared in the comments here, as well as we're going to pull up some Reddit stuff. It's going to take a long time before we're back on track. The teams are just too damn limited. Then we also have the raid feels worse overall because of difficulty in the characters alone. Boom, bingo. If the Rex weren't so bad and it was a bit easier, it would be the best raid ever. And again, I think CG kind of hit it. Like, it felt one of the more epic raids that we've had for the most part. It was really cool. The cutscenes, the space elements, it was really neat. That part was great. Again, that was all cool. Absolutely horrible rewards compared to the last raid. Went from 4,000 get 3 to 1,500. So even a worse drop than my free-to-play account. We are a casual with serious guild that have around 10 to 15 members who have been playing since year 1 or year 2. This raid is gated for the whales, and it's frustrating. And it really is. And I don't know if if the developers are going to do anything about it. I have this theory that I want to throw out there again. I keep throwing this out every time I get one of these newer raids that they've been putting out here. Again, more stuff going on here. Are any guilds just giving up on Naboo? And then, we got comments kind of echoing here. Our guild went from 40 million in Endor to 3.8 in Naboo. It's a big issue. Then also, we have Nerium here. We went from halfway to 4th rewards here to not being able to reach the first. Oh, the pain. Yeah, the absolute pain of all this here. And this summarizes exactly what I said in my Naboo raid guide that I put out and my concerns for this raid. Unless you bought the Lightspeed bundle, unless you worked hard in Conquest to get Queen Amidala and you wailed maybe a little bit for Master Qui-Gon, Padawan Obi-Wan, and then you have maybe the leftover Separatists, and of course the Gungans, which they're farmable, but they're very Kyrotech heavy. They're only single job farmable. And then you have these like the Separatists again, which I said they might be nerfing. We don't know. It's not 100% certain. Then the remaining Jedi, which, they're just okay. They get you a score. There's not really a lot going on. They use too many stupid Jedi and useless things that people just don't have up and running. Really is unfortunate. And I also want to put this out there. This is also very confusing, not just for this particular raid and this Lightspeed bundle, but just in general. I don't, unless this is just a FOMO thing, fear of missing out, of not getting these Lightspeed bundles. If you didn't buy the Jedi Lightspeed bundle, you basically missed out on a max score team. It's just plain and simple. We showed Luminar League kicks butt with those Lightspeed bundle Jedi and Grandmaster Yoda thing thrown in here. I don't know why they didn't let the pack stay throughout the raid, and maybe more people would have picked it up to help out their guild a little bit more. And I do want to talk about that, like how can you help out your guild if that's something that you're even trying to do? Okay, moving on. But just in general, Lightspeed bundles, I feel like they should be like the Hyperdrive bundle, where there's a folder always added, because I see new players coming to the game. They're like, hey, where's that Supreme Leader Kylo Ren Lightspeed bundle? I'm like, you tell me, boss. It's really annoying that they don't have these bundles sitting in the game permanently. Nonetheless, we also have this. Feel free to, pause and kind of, read through this here from Digits Zoid, where they're kind of showing again the problem where the lesser tier feels like it's a little overtuned, and it's kind of hard to get a solid score even on the lesser tier. And of course, another complaint they put out: the battles do take a little bit of time, for sure. So yeah, here's the TLDR: tune down to tier 0 difficulty on the Naboo raid. Massively tier 0 of any raid should be newer player friendly. Yeah. 1000%, and not require Gear 12 Zeta specific squads to get to any points. Yeah, even though you don't need Gear 12 for it, it feels like you need Gear 12 for it. I 100% agree. This is one way of making this more enjoyable for people. Again, the raid that they hit the core points for the most part, but they missed out on this, making the raid accessible. Whereas at least tier 0 on Crate Dragon, tier 0 on Endor, it felt new player friendly. This does not feel new player friendly. Another thing that we have here, Battle for Naboo, kind of cool, but very time consuming. This is coming from Agnards. Again, feel free to read through this lovely thing here. Again, suggestions to kind of work on the time. Again, there is a time thing with this. I don't think that's the number one issue. The number one issue is, again, accessibility and people's rewards being dipped out. And I want to talk about this right here. We have a question from Namaris. Why do Naboo raid rather than Endor? And answer number 1 here. Naboo is the only place to get Mark III currency. So I want to kind of now bridge that back over to the game with this question here, or this statement that we've seen here, is should you even bother with this raid? There's 40% that answer that said they haven't played it or they're playing older raids. So let's go back to the game real quick and chit chat about this. So let's just assume you're only going to hit the first crate. So that we have to make that hopefully you can at least maybe hit 10 million here. The good news is you are at least getting some inkling of the Mark III currency, which again is primarily meant to help you get towards Relic 8. You got the Zimbidal, the Zimbidals. You also have yourselves, what are the impulse detectors, the arrow magnifiers, and maybe even some Relic 9 stuff. Is it a lot? No. 5,500 Mark II currency, and this is kind of where the consideration needs to come in. It's one of those things where it feels like if you don't know where your guild's going to be, you might just want to try it once just to see where you can land. Because if you can at least hit this bronze crate again, it's kind of the bare minimum. You're going to get that 9,700 Mark II currency and 1,500. Whereas compared to Endor, it's going to vary depending on where you guys were. But if we go to the current Endor raids, which remember, they pulled out the Mark III currency. You can't get that anymore. So if you want to make any progress towards the Relic 8, Relic 9, even maybe make it Relic 7 a bit easier, you got to stick with this raid on Naboo here. So again, depending on where you guys are with this raid, if you're hitting that bronze crate 9,700 Mark II currency, you got to make that decision. Do you want to move there? Because even the max crate now is only going to give you 10,500 Mark II currency. So it's only a little bit more compared to even one of the lesser crates that we just analyzed there. But it gives you that 1,500 Mark III currency. So generally, again, unless you can't even hit the first crate, and more importantly, you might not even be hitting that bronze crate that my free-to-play guild's barely hitting, you should be moving to Naboo. That's generally how they do it. Just like we had Crate Dragon, they took away all the incentive for staying in crate, wanted to move you to speeder bike raid. But again, I'd say most guilds probably saw an increase in rewards going from crate to Endor. And just like what happened to crate to Endor, they're trying to take away pretty much any incentive to stay in Endor and move over to Naboo. And with that said, I want to kind of bring up one more point because I've been thinking about this myself. How can I help my guild out? Because the chance of CG coming in, I think Gary's going to fly before that happens. I hope they do something, at least making the tier 0 easier. But I'm asking myself, all right, what can we do? Because there's not a lot of things you can do. There's the pool for characters is small, the very weird, specific oddball teams that don't really fit into the larger scale of the game. Like, I was considering getting Gungans up and running. But here's the thing, one person farming Gungans isn't going to be enough to make a massive difference. I mean, look, going from this to that, we need like another, let's just round it up, 40 million, a little bit less than that, 40 million points. Me getting Gungans, yeah, relic, whatever, and then getting like a 1.2. Even let's say I get them to, let's just say I get the one of the higher crates and get 2.7 million. What is that, relic 8, Gary? It's not going to make a dent. It's one of those things where unless the entire guild is pushing for a Lightspeed bundle, the entire guild's pushing for Gungans, it doesn't make a difference. And it's not like the old raids of like the AAT, the Sith raid, the Rancor raid, where you just need one person with the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, and you're good to go. The whole guild's going to piggyback. That's one of the problems with the new raid formula. Just like when they moved crystals out of Squad Arena into Grand Arena, Capital Games got full control again of the crystal economy. With the raid economy, they have full control over the nozzle, and they can open it, they can close it. With the new reward structures, with the difficulties, the new character requirements, and that's what they're saying. I'm making a general statement. I think they've overall cut people's rewards in half, and they try to disguise it under all the cool stuff. That's what this raid. And again, props to the actual raid. It's fun, but underneath that, behind the facade, words are getting cut in half. So it's one of those things where you got to chat with your guild, kind of see where you guys are sitting at. Again, as we're seeing, it's more or less, it's better just to stay here. Even though we're getting a less crate, the rewards are just overall more important and better than staying inside of the Endor raid. That's kind of where we're at right now. Look and see where your guild is at with the crate. If you're hitting this, you're doing all right. You're just going back to basically the crate days. But again, getting at least 1,500 currency, better than nothing. Only a little bit less Mark II compared to the current Endor raid reward. And as you can see, we have my rewards in my inbox ready to go. But overall, I was hoping I was gonna be wrong, right? Sometimes, I don't feel like I'm being unnecessarily pessimistic, but like when something smells bad from a mile away, it's like, I hope it's not gonna be the case, right? I'm hoping for the best, but man, before the Naboo raid came out, I said, I got some concerns about this. While playing the Naboo raid, I'm like, I got some concerns about this. And after seeing everything said and done, the concerns were warranted. So I hope CG does something. The raid's got cool elements, but those rewards at the end of the day, getting halved just overnight, really, really sucks. But you know what? Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I want to throw this one more thing out here as we start wrapping up here. What I hope that they maybe do, and I'm surprised they haven't done this yet, where it's kind of like Raid Shadow Legends, where they have dungeons, and every day a certain dungeon opens up. And it more or less encourages you, firstly, to kind of invest, broadly. Kind of like Grand Arena. You kind of want to invest in this team, you want to invest in that team. Whereas this is kind of like a flash event where you gotta quickly get these up, and by the time you get up, oh, too late, that's outdated. Oh, there's a new raid, you gotta keep up with this. You just missed it. I'm hoping maybe one day when we start having maybe 4 or 5 of these new raid formulas that they've been doing, that maybe we go to something like that. So they rotate. So again, maybe Monday is crate raid. Maybe Tuesday is going to be Endor. Wednesday would be Naboo. And then, I don't know, Thursday would be, Death Star raid. And then Friday, maybe they have, maybe they run the featured raid again. So maybe they still have a priority for the newer raid, but they still give you the opportunity to reward you for investing in the previous raids and the characters. And it's kind of like Grand Arena, where you want to kind of invest broadly and hopefully you get benefits for all these things that you're investing in. Whereas if this, I don't know how many people are going to want to blitz for Jedi Counselor. I don't know how many people are going to get the Gungans and Queen Amidala up and running. But you know what? Who knows if they'll ever do something like that. Just my speculation in the meantime. But nonetheless, I speculate you guys are probably having a pretty solid weekend wherever you are. Overall, thank you for stopping by. Stay tuned because we got another week ahead of us. Grand Arenas. Oh, yeah. Conquest. Speaking of Conquest, watch. How much you want to bet? Like the next raid, they're like, oh, you better have Luthen up and running. I think the problem is we're going to be stuck up this raid for, what is it like, Gary? Yeah, 6, 7, 8 months. So, yeah. Anyways, time will tell. Hopefully they fix that tier 0, make it a little bit easier. But you know what? Again, if they respond, check for Garrett because he's likely already flying by then. Love you. Leave a like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today.
Oh, it's great to be in the Empire today. The sun never sets.